Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to start. In fact, past time to start. Thank you for being here and being involved in our city government. It's Wednesday, April the 4th. The time is, we'll say 5 after 6. I've asked two of our scouts to take care of our prayer and pledge. I would like to ask Mao if you would come up and introduce yourself, please, because I would really hate to mess up your name. Just let us all know who you are. Yes, right over there, Mao. That's a nickname. Okay.
So my name is Mauricio Peralta, and they have asked me to do the prayer.
He's going to do it in Spanish, so we'll look forward to that.
Nuestro Padre Celestial, te damos gracias por todas estas bendiciones que nos has dado y gracias por darnos la oportunidad de estar aquí y también aprender de lo que van a hablar ahorita y poder también participar de las actividades que nos piden que participemos, y esto te lo pedimos en el nombre del Señor Jesucristo. Amén.
Thank you, Mauricio. Nathan Jimenez, he's agreed to do our pledge for us. And if I didn't pronounce your name right, tell us. Good.
May the audience please rise. Repeat the pledge after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. That'll move us to the consent agenda, the approval of minutes for meeting March 21st, 2018. Do I have a motion for that approval?
I'll go ahead. I move that we accept the minutes from our last meeting of March 21st, 2018. I just have one question. It's on the first of development, it says well in part. Should be in part. Otherwise, let's get.
Are you approving the whole consent agenda or just the?
Well, we do it all. The Arbor Day proclamation. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, have a motion and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. We won't go to C, petitions and communications, public forum. Anyone can speak on items that are not on the agenda. The time limit is roughly 3 minutes. And then we'll go to that point. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody wanted to take advantage of that, so we'll move on to staff and council reports. Any staff here that would like to speak to the public and the council? No? David, looks like you're going to.
I'll just report one thing, Mayor, Council. We, yesterday, the mayor and a couple of us, some staff members went up and met with Woodbury Corporation. Thought it was a good meeting. We talked about getting these ball fields built. We set another meeting time for May 3rd. And we should have some numbers, some more definite numbers on how much this is going to cost for the ball fields and the percentage of who does what. So we're moving forward. They do have some interest in part of the ball field property. They're still looking for an anchor tenant, and they don't have anything secured there. But we also talked to them about how we can work together at the ICSC retail conference in Vegas, and they're going to email us some businesses that they're looking at for this area, and hopefully we can get contact them as well, see if we can work together. So thought it was good contact, and we'll keep the meetings going.
Thank you, David. Chief Bishop.
Just have one thing tonight. Councilman Hyde asked me to take a look at the two car lots that fix salvage vehicles. We met with both of those owners, and they have cleaned it up for now. So hopefully we have remedied that. We keep having to revisit it often, so I don't know if maybe we have to look for a long-term solution later on, but for now they're complying, so just wanted to give you an update on that.
Thank you, Chief. Any other staff? Okay, we'll move on to council. Councilman Christensen.
I don't have anything at this time.
Okay, Councilwoman Carter.
I don't have anything that pertains to any council business, but I want to thank the chamber for all the work that they did and the city for the Easter egg hunt. I don't know if anybody here went to the Easter egg hunt, but it was a big success. I couldn't lift my arms for a couple of days from throwing all the eggs out onto the field, but it was, I think there were a lot of kids there, and it was a lot of fun, so I want to thank them for doing that.
Councilwoman Carter, thank you for reminding me. I'd also like to thank the chamber for that as well. I was able to go up and attend that. Saw you there, and I think there was something like 14,000 eggs. A lot of eggs, a lot of children. See Jake down there. I think it was very, very successful, and we appreciate those kind of community activities that give us a sense of community. So appreciate that. Councilwoman Hyatt.
Thank you, Brett, for taking care of that. Jade, she does awesome in these chamber meetings that we have. We have an awesome chamber. I just want everybody to know that. And thank you, everybody else that helps me.
Okay, we'll go on to Scout Attendance Certificates. Councilwoman Carter,
Okay,
do your thing.
all right. This is something that we enjoy doing, and what I want to have happen, I'm going to call the scouts up individually. I want you to come and get your certificate, shake my hand, and then shake the other three members here, their hand also, when I call your name, okay? Then I want you to stand right down here, because I'm going to ask each of you what you like best about scouting, okay? So that'll give you some time to think about it. First off, we have Mauricio Peralta. Shake your hand and then stand right there. Okay, Nathan Jimenez. And we have Isael Santillan. I don't know. That's close. Tell me your name. Isael, and what's the last name? Oh, I did it right. Santillan. Great. Okay. And then I know I want you to shake your hands. And I know I've got this one, Alex Garcia. Or Alec. Alec. Okay. Okay, we'll start with Mauricio. I want you to tell everybody in a loud voice so they can all hear you what you like about scouting.
So, what I like about scouting is well, I haven't done this, but I like going to camp.
Going to camps? You haven't started yet, huh? You haven't gone to your first one? It'll be fun. I'll bet. Okay, thank you.
My favorite thing about scouts is going outside
proud of you boys. You're going to be our future leaders, so we appreciate them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Scouts. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Councilwoman Starr, for doing that for us. We'll move on to action items, D, action items. The next two are going to be, oh, yes, I'm jumping. Okay. Jade, come on up. Sorry to jump. No, it's important. Sorry. Thank you.
You're fine, thank you very much. So, I did also want to say thank you for a fantastic Easter egg hunt. We had a lot of fun preparation, and a huge shout out to our high school clubs, because without them, we fill a lot of eggs on our own. So they did fantastic. We did have a little over 14,000 eggs this year, so fantastic event. We were glad to see the turnout, even with the holiday weekend. We had a good turnout.
And I'd like to say, every one of those eggs were taped.
Yeah, it's the only way to keep the candy in there, because we chuck them on the field, like you said. Your arm is very tired. So, just a quick other follow-up on a couple things we also had that I wanted to say thank you for our citizens in our city. We had probably one of our biggest turnouts for our Far Better ice cream ribbon cutting. There was about 80 people that attended that. If you haven't had a chance to see their new location, they're just down the hill towards Walmart, and they've got ice cream and hot dogs and fantastic new business here in Payson that's really family oriented. Their whole setup is very neat. So we're excited to have them as one of our new chamber members. It is my pleasure tonight to actually represent and recognize our business of the month for April, and I do have to excuse them with spring break. They're down staffing, and he's closing up shop tonight. So Ron Gordon with our Ron Tire Pros, fantastic community member that helps with so many things. And we do want to recognize him for being our April business of the month, and we're sorry that he wasn't able to attend tonight, but do want to recognize him and the great things that he does. And then I have a personal invitation for each of our council members. Our annual chamber meeting will be on the 18th of April. I know it's also a city council meeting night, and I apologize for that. I'm hoping we'll still get some great attendance. Thank you.
Thank you, Jade. Okay, the next one on C is a presentation of Trust Accountability Program Award. This is Brent, am I going to pronounce your last name? Oakson, is that how you pronounce it?
That's correct, Oakison.
Oakson.
Glad to be here. Thanks for your time. I'm with the Utah Local Governments Trust, and I'm also a resident of Payson, so it's nice to be home today for the council meeting. I work with them in helping the city to prevent losses and claims, and we have a program that they take part in for the last 4 years. I think it's 4 years in a row now. It's called our Trust Accountability Program, and what that is, when a city or an organization puts these things in place that prevents losses and claims, and have these programs going, it really benefits the community and the trust and everybody. And so it's a really good partnership. We're grateful for your partnership there. For those that don't know, the trust is an insurance mutual where we insure over 500 entities throughout the state for property, liability, work comp, many different lines of coverage, and we provide that to the city here as well. So again, it's great to work with you guys. And I want to congratulate you because this makes 4 years in a row you've taken part in this, and so I have this award to give to you today that I'll leave with you here in just a little bit. But as part of being a part of this program, we send out a check of appreciation, and it's 5% of your liability premium, which comes out to $9,157.50. We sent out a check earlier this year for that, for taking part in this program, and it also enables you to be able to get a discount on your workers' comp premium in your next renewal. Being that you've done this program now at least 3 years in a row, you get up to a 4.5% discount on that. So we incentivize that because it makes a difference. This program really helps organizations prevent losses and claims, and it's a win-win for everybody. So just want to say congratulations to all those that participated, those here in the city that have done a great job, and I'll leave you with this award. Thanks for your time. Congratulations.
Thank you, Jade. now, we'll go ahead and move on. Oh, no, we won't. You got something to,
No, yes, we can move on, Mayor. I just have one small problem. I told some of the planning commissioners that we do this at 6:30.
oh,
We're a little bit early, and there's 2 of them here, I believe. But there's 2 more coming. So I don't know if you want to go to the Board of Adjustment. He's not going to be here, but you can go through that, and then hopefully we get the, I think you can just go down to that if you want.
okay, we'll just skip that. Before we do that, I would like to make sure that we excuse Council Weldon, Doug Weldon, and Councilman Brian Hewlett. They have other obligations they had to attend to tonight, so we just want to make sure everybody knows that they wanted to be here but could not. Okay, we'll go on to Resolution 2, appointment of the Board of Adjustment members. And I would like to request the council to approve this. We do have one of the Board of Adjustment members that needs to be reappointed. He is Ray Wilson. Would like to know how the council feels about that appointment. Any discussions about it? Let me just tell you, well, we'll go ahead and entertain a motion to have Ray Wilson be reappointed to the Board of Adjustment. Have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to have Charlie Wilson appointed to the Board of Adjustment.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. This one will call for a roll call, starting with Councilwoman Hyatt.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Let me just add to this, I'll read you the members that are on that board: Bob Trostgard, Donnie Buffton, now Ray Wilson again, Sue Ann Larson, and John Wilson. Okay,
Well, we can start. If you want to present the names of the planning commission, those that are here, we can get them sworn in, and hopefully the others will come.
okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to give you a little bit of background. Myself and Councilwoman Hyatt were part of the board that took a look at, I think there was about 10 or 12 people that wanted to be on this board, and we interviewed, we interviewed a few, I can't remember how many we interviewed, but during that interview process, it was our feeling that we need to retain Ryan Frisbee and Kurt Reacher as 2 4-year terms, each one of them 4-year term. Would like to suggest the name of Robert Mills as a 3-year term on that council, and also Kathy Marzan for a 2-year term.
Yep, that's correct. The reason for the 2 4-year terms, they just expired, and they re-signed up to continue. Councilwoman Hyatt was on the planning commission, and she won the election to be on the council, so her remaining terms for 3 years. And then the last one was Blair Warner, and he resigned off the planning commission, and then he's on a mission. And so the remainder of his term is 2 years, so we have to keep them so that they don't all expire at the same time.
Thank you.
That's what the mayor's recommending.
Okay, also, is there any discussion of those names? Then I'd entertain a motion on the acceptance of these on the Board of Planning Commission. Sure.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Kurt Beecher for a 4-year term, Ryan Frisbee for a 4-year term, Robert Mills for the remainder of the 3-year term, Kathy Marzan for a 2-year term on Payson City Planning and Development Committee.
Okay, we have a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, this will call for a roll call, starting with Councilman Christensen.
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
So I think they're all here. Judge, do you want to administer the oath to all of them at the same time?
Whatever the council would like, we can do them all at once, we can do them separately.
Let's do them all at once. That's okay?
You want to be here now.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, come right up.
state your full name. I, Ryan Lambert, do solemnly swear or affirm
Do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Congratulations. I'll shake one of your hands. Let's go and sign it, and then I'll have you.
We'll shake council's hand after you sign.
You'll sign it the way it was printed on here. Some of you may have middle names, some of you may not. Robert?
As mayor and council, would certainly like to thank these men and the lady that is there for their service on this planning commission. We look forward to working with each and every one of you. Thank you.
Then you'll let Sherry know that you'll still be young. Thank you. Thanks, gentlemen.
Okay, we'll move on to number 3, preliminary plan and final plot of Creek Hollow subdivision located east of 930 west and approximately 1150 south. Would like to turn some time over to staff. Daniel, if you would come, and is he here?
Oh, I don't see either one of them.
Thought he was here.
He was there. I'm going to handle the next
Okay.
item. I'll go get Danny and you do the next item.
Okay, we'll go ahead and skip to that number 4, resolution development agreement for Ashley Ridge subdivision located near the intersection of 1300 East and Salem Canal Road.
And this is the subdivision that was brought to you last city council meeting. And the development agreement's in your packet, and I've had a chance to speak with the developer here, and we're good to go forward with it as it's written.
Wonderful. Is there any council discussion on that subdivision? Okay, then we're ready for a motion. I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we enter into a resolution 09022015-A, authorizing the mayor to enter into a development agreement on behalf of Payson City, between Payson City and the developer of Ashley Ridge subdivision.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been a motion and seconded. We'll do a roll call vote, starting with Councilwoman Hyatt.
Aye.
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 Motion passes. Thank you.
Daniel's on the way in.
Great. You want to take up some time, Dave?
Well, if you want to go to number 5, I'll take care of that while you're...
Okay, we'll go to number 5, resolution amendments to the Payson City fee schedule.
Mayor and council, the only change on this fee schedule is we are asking the council to consider just increasing the non-resident participation fee for those in the recreation program from $5 to $10. It's been $5 for probably 15 years. We looked at the other community Spanish Forks. It's $10, Salem's $10, and we just want to be consistent with our neighbor cities. So that's what the resolution is.
Any discussion? Okay, we're ready for a motion then?
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the resolution to amend the Payson City fee schedule for non-resident participation.
Okay, have a second?
I second it.
Okay, we'll need a roll call on this as well, starting with Councilman Christensen.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Okay, Daniel here?
He's here.
Okay, Daniel, we'll go ahead with number 3, preliminary plan and final plat of the Creek Hollow subdivision located east of 930 West at approximately 1150 South.
You guys are going quick. Yeah, So-
Appreciate you being here, Daniel.
Yeah. I was thinking it'd be another 15 or 20 minutes. Okay. Okay, so this is one, oh, thanks, Ken. This is one where we brought the overlay back in December, so it should look familiar to some of you. I'll wait though to talk too much until we can get some pictures on for people here who may not have seen it. It's called Creek Hollow Subdivision. And there we go. So tonight is the request for approval of the preliminary plan, the final plat. Again, the overlay was already approved back in December, and at the time of the overlay, we established how many units we established some of the architectural standards, general layout and whatnot. So today we're just approving more of the technical matters that the applicants brought forward in the preliminary plan and final plat. So that's the only thing that's really different. So the locator map here, you can see Walmart. So this is just south of Walmart, and then east, it's on 930 West, so just north of the temple, and it's an infill project, meaning that it's an area of town that's already developed, and there is a parcel that's kind of an odd shape, and it has some challenges with access, and has some differences with frontage than you'd see with typical parcels. It's in the R19 zone, so residential, single-family, 9,000 square foot lots. And we've already applied that overlay, which allows a common space area and the homes on individual pads with the density averaged out throughout the development. So here's the parcel zoomed in a little bit, so you can see it's along the channel, so the frontage is blocked by that channel. It's in the floodplain, so the applicant has had to work through some of those FEMA requirements. There's a city trail that, actually I have this one right here, a city trail that comes along right here that will continue. And the applicant had to work with some agencies to make sure all of the requirements, those technical requirements are followed. This is the plan submitted back in December with the RMO1 overlay request that was approved. So you can see in that plan right there, the 10 single-family dwellings, that layout, and the plan today is consistent with this plan that was submitted back in December. I think the next one, this shows the preliminary plan that was submitted. So again, the technical details are on this plan. Back in, I think it was in December in the public hearing, there were some concerns with some engineering issues with drainage and whatnot, and the applicants had to work through that with neighbors. And I believe that's been addressed here and with our city engineer. In the housing product, as that I believe you all know, the RMO1 has pretty significant architectural standards, and so the product here is required to follow those standards. And you can see it here. I don't know if there are questions from the public about what those standards are. I think the council is pretty familiar with them by now, but you can see that they engage pretty well with their surrounding environment. They have architectural features and good roof lines and porches, and this development will have gathering areas, recessed garages, so it prevents the neighborhood from looking like a parking lot. So it's a people-first development. Here are more images of homes that this applicant, I believe, has built, but in any event, these are homes that are consistent with the RMO1 overlay and the architectural requirements of that zone, or of that overlay. So some of the conditions of approval, I think that were
open space, some of the open space requirements and the waterways. Then there will be a development agreement and there are CCNRs that will have additional language about the housing product and architectural standards. So those are conditions of approval, as well as some of the other technical things that need to be resolved for the final plat to be reported, such as transfer of water and the performance guarantee and our standard development procedures. And so today, the city council decision is for that preliminary plan and final plat. Again, on previous hearings, we've had a hearing and approval of the overlay zone. Then we've had planning commission with the hearing for this preliminary plan and final plat that you're seeing today. And their recommendation was to approve those based on the conditions in the staff report. And the city council today can, again, recommend approval consistent with those conditions in the staff report based on those conditions. Or they can remand back to staff for further review or for any changes. And of course, if it's inconsistent with the RMO1 zone or with any of the requirements in our development ordinances or zoning ordinances, we can deny, especially if we believe that the applicant won't be able to meet those qualifications. And I believe that sums up the presentation. Here is the preliminary plat you saw, and the final plat's right there. I believe that was in the council packet. So if there were any questions, that's right here. And also the applicant is here in the audience, and he can answer any specific questions as well that you guys have.
What's the request to waive fencing along 930 West? What is the city code for that?
Jill had that in there. I can't think of any fencing that would be required along 930 West. So
that was more for my information. I was looking at that going,
I did delete it in case there was something that Jerry knew he had talked to Jill about regarding fencing there, but I can't think of anything.
Maybe along that number 1 building, maybe to the west of it, maybe that's the...
yeah, we wouldn't want fencing along 930 West. That's where the trail is.
Yeah.
And I guess also full disclosure, the applicant's been working with Jill on this, and she's out of town today, so I'm presenting it. So some of the discussions that has happened between Jerry Robinson here and Jill, I'm not as familiar with, so he can answer some of those questions too if you have specifics.
On a personal note, I think this is a wonderful project. I think it'll add to the area down by the temple. I'd be interested. It sounds like you're very positive with this. Your opinion is we need to go forward.
I like I like what's presented.
Okay.
I think it'll be a great product for Payson, and really for any city. I think this is a very attractive community. So I don't have any concerns with the product.
Okay.
I like the fact also, Daniel, that the houses all have a different look from each other. And I like that, that they're not all the same color and all like we see in some of the new buildings. So I really like that. I'm just wondering about, it was mentioned about the bridge.
Yeah, so I saw in the notes when I was preparing for this that the bridge has been worked out. I don't know any of those details, but I saw a lot of things about that. So I don't know if Jerry knows more about that. Do you want Jerry to come up and answer along?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on up, Jerry. I noticed that there were several options, and I'm wondering which one you decided on.
There were 2 options. The one that we want to use is the one that has a wood deck across the bridge.
Wood deck?
It's so weather-treated wood deck. It's a steel. It's called Corten steel. It's used on many public buildings. It's not painted. It's treated with a material that makes it look like it's rusted, and then the rust stops any further rust. It's commonly done along public walkways. And so we picked the one that we thought would be the most attractive and the least maintenance. It's 10 foot wide, and it's It's 10 foot wide because all the trails are 10 foot wide, so we have to maintain the same look. We've been careful to angle it so that people can, even though it's a little bit tight through there, we didn't want them to have to come down and stop and make a right turn and then stop and make a left turn. They need to be able to ride their bikes on through. So those kinds of things were considered. Let me just comment about the fence. Generally, the areas that require fencing are along the backs of homes. All the homes across the street have the front yard facing the other way. So the backyard, some of which are not even landscaped, would look less than lovely. In our case, we have front yards that face the street, and we're dedicating area to be a park along the street. I can't imagine the city building a park and then fencing it off so you can't see it or get to it. So we think this is a place where the fence would be a detriment, and being able to see the landscaping, to see the variety of homes is a real asset to the city. So that's why we requested the waiver. In fact, Joe suggested that she thought it doesn't apply here.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is on that first home, just from the edge of their property to the back of their home, tend to enclose that if that's a possibility, but I know there's site restrictions and things, but.
We could, but we've made that a front. Now, can you go to that? By the way, I've designed, our builder has built all these homes. The home, the very first one, sometimes fronts of homes look nice and sides and back look kind of plain or right. That doesn't happen in this ordinance. The ordinance specifically says it faces the street, it's got to look good. And so that's why I think that I would request that we just not have a fence anywhere along there. For privacy purposes, and people have a separate backyard that's not against the street. And the side of unit number 1 is going to either be the front, or it will be as attractive as any front. We will have bays and gables and things that stick out there.
Is this part of an HOA then?
Yes.
Okay. Is that to maintain your street?
Maintain the street, and the landscaping that you're going to be seeing all the way up to unit number 1 will be maintained.
Is that part of it? Is it done through a organization, or is it these 10 homes that manage and take care of all that on their own?
It'll be a recorded homeowners organization. Usually what happens in my experience is that they form a group themselves. Sometimes they hire people to manage it for them. Depends on whether or not they want to get involved. But price ranges in the mid-400s are such that I can't imagine them moving in there and then allowing the place to look weedy and ugly. The price range I have found is the single biggest architectural standard that you can have because of the commitment that people make.
Right.
And thank you for recognizing the variety. The homes not only have different fronts, but even the roofs change directions. We've got some that parallel, some are perpendicular. Some have homes that enter on the front, some enter on the side. The idea is to look like it's not all the same.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate it very much. So, council, are we ready for any further discussion? Are we ready for a motion? I'll entertain one.
I'd like to make a motion that we okay the preliminary plan and the final plat for Creek Hollow subdivision.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. A motion and a second. This calls for a roll call vote, starting with Councilwoman Hyatt.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm sure you're getting tired of seeing me.
Okay, that means we go on to E other, a discussion regarding sale of parcel 30.096.0017 in Payson Canyon.
So Mayor Council, I asked Garrett Elmer to come back. In 2016, a couple of years ago, he came and presented, and they made an offer to purchase this property up in Payson Canyon. The city council declared a surplus property along with the 4 Bay property. and he proposed an offer. The council at the time was willing to sell that property for what we purchased it for several years ago. There were a couple of issues. We had the study done for the reservoir, and we needed to work with Central Utah Water to see if this was really feasible or if it wasn't going to happen. It kind of appears that we're not going to be able to put a reservoir in that location. And so the other thing that's been talked about, I think even last council meeting, Councilman Welton talked about getting some trails up the canyon and up to Forebay. But I feel like I put Garrett off when he calls, so I just said, we've got 3 new council members. Maybe you can come and explain why you want to purchase this property. It's just for discussion tonight, but I thought Garrett could talk to you and see kind of what your feeling is. We probably need to make sure we know what we're going to do at Forebay and where we're going to put access up into their trails before we make a final decision. But I thought Garrett could talk to you, especially the new council members, on why he wanted to purchase this property and what his intent is. So, Garrett, if you want to come up.
Thank you. So this is family property, I guess, is the way that I look at it. Is my grandfather kind of settled that area in Walker Flat, and he divided up his land to each one of his kids. The property that this parcel is it was my aunt's property when her husband died. She needed some money, sold it to the city, and I was just looking at what the possibilities were of buying that back. As far as building and that kind of thing, right now it's zoned as recreational, and so it requires a 50-acre piece to build on it, which that isn't right now. There are some, I would one day like to if there was a possibility, but I don't know what that would be. So, but that's kind of just the purposes of why I was looking into purchasing that property. Do you have any questions for me as far as
What size is the parcel? I don't know anything about it, so.
So I actually have a little bit of a map, and
Of where it is, and then the second piece is just the breakdown of.
So it's this green section?
so the green section that's marked on the first page is where it's located. You can see it's just above the Kiwanis Park at Basin Canyon.
So it traverses the main highway, the main road through there?
Yeah, the road actually cuts across it. It's a 25-acre piece. I know, as Dave and I have discussed this, that there was some discussion on whether the Forebay side of the road, the city might want to keep that. I told him I would still be interested in purchasing the other side, which is the west side. Total, it's 25 acres, and divided up, I don't know what that would be if they split it up.
And there are other homes in the area, if I recall correctly, right?
Yeah, so when my grandfather split it and divided that up for his kids, each of the kids actually built a home on that land. And so there are, if you remember going up the canyon, there's the big A-frame house.
Mm-hmm.
It's just above that, and my aunt Sharon is still on the hill looking over the field that we're discussing now.
So this,
Between your Aunt Sharon and where Laneville?
It's actually from in between my aunt Sharon and Doc Holder, where the Tanners live.
Oh, right there.
And so that's,
Okay,
Sharon.
okay.
yeah.
So the part you're really interested in is, well, you're interested in the whole thing, but when it comes right down to it, you're interested on the west side of the road.
Yeah, I would be interested in all of it, but I mean, if the council is wanting to maintain some property for access to Forebay, then I would still be interested in that west side of the road.
I think if it gives us that access, I could see us being interested in keeping the east side of the road.
Yeah, we really need to just find out how we're going to be able to access that, and we've been in discussions with the whole Forebay properties.
But I'm in favor of the west side of the road being considered surplus and sold off. So.
Yeah. I think that's a good word.
So for direction for us, should we, maybe the council at a work session, maybe
And I'd like to see what the possibilities are of zoning it so that you could actually build on it.
It's in the county, so it's not us
So-
owning it.
So it'd have to be.
They have to go back to the county and see if they could change it.
Okay. I just don't want him stuck with something he can't do anything with either.
And, I mean, it's not, on the map, you can kind of see the one part of it that's white is kind of a field area, so, I mean, it is good for animals and for grazing and that kind of thing, so I think it'd still be something that'd be interesting. Thank you.
Thanks, Garrett. Okay, Dave, you got some more business for us?
Mayor and Council, I just asking, that's the last on the agenda, but we did receive an offer on some property, so I would ask if you would make a motion to go into a closed session so we can discuss the specifics of that. Shouldn't take very long, and then you'll be out of here by 7, I hope.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we now go to closed session.
Second. Councilwoman Hyde, seconded it, okay, we'll do a roll call.
Aye.
Go ahead.
Aye.
Go ahead.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.